hold on to your breath, for Saudi Arabia has just made a spine-chilling discovery that has sent shockwaves throughout the world. Mount Sinai, also known as Mount Moses, is not your average mountain. It's one of the most famous peaks in the world, steeped in religious and historical significance that spans centuries. From the believers of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, to curious scientists and tourists, this mountain has captivated the hearts and minds of people from all around the world. And for good reason. Mount Sinai has produced some of the most unexpected discoveries that have baffled even the most skeptical of scientists. In this video, we're excited to share these astonishing finds with you. From the sacred texts to the scientific evidence, we'll take you on an epic journey to uncover the hidden secrets of this legendary mountain. So, let's dive right in to the world of Mount Sinai's astonishing discoveries. Mount Sinai. The very name conjures up images of a majestic mountain shrouded in mystery and history. This iconic mountain, believed to be located in the south-central region of the Sinai Peninsula between Israel and Egypt, has been the subject of much debate and speculation over the years. The mere mention of this mountain evokes images of Moses receiving the Ten Commandments from God, the Israelites trekking out of slavery in Egypt, and the awe-inspiring power of the Almighty. But did you know that the exact location of Mount Sinai is still up for debate? Yes, you heard that right. Despite its immense significance in religious history, scholars and scientists have yet to agree on the exact location of this iconic mountain. Some say it's a massive granite peak in the south-central region of the Sinai Peninsula, rising to a height of 2,285 meters, or 1.41 miles above sea level. That's nearly a quarter of the height of Mount Everest. This location has been accepted by many scholars of the major faith traditions. And speaking of faith traditions, did you know that pilgrims, scholars, and hermits have been visiting this site for thousands of years? The famous monastery of St. Catherine, built at the foot of the mountain in 538 AD, is possibly the world's oldest continuously inhabited Christian monastery. It contains a library of ancient manuscripts, including a 4th century Greek Codex Sinaiticus of the Bible. Talk about history. Despite this, people still speculate about other possible locations for Mount Sinai. In fact, some researchers promote another location altogether, and you won't believe where it is. The answer is Saudi Arabia, and there's a solid reason behind this claim. Let's take a journey back to the founding place of the Islamic faith, Saudi Arabia. The land of Midian in Saudi Arabia is believed to be where the iconic Mount Sinai is located, but scholars have been divided on the exact location of this mountain for centuries. Some believe it's Mount Bergier or Jabal al-Lawz to the northeast of the Gulf of Aqaba, while others point to Jabal al-Manifa near Wadi al-Harab. However, the late Ron Wyatt had a more controversial theory. Wyatt was an American scholar who had a knack for finding biblical locations. He claimed to have found Noah's Ark, Sodom and Gomorrah, the Red Sea crossing, the Ark of the Covenant, and other biblical archaeological treasures. Wyatt's theory about the Mount Sinai's location in the ancient land of Midian was based on his interpretation of Exodus 3, verse 1. He reasoned that because Moses looked after Jethro's flocks, the mountain of God that Moses encountered had to be in Midian as well. Jethro was conveniently a Midian priest, so Wyatt concluded that the real Mount Sinai must be located east of the path of the miraculous Red Sea crossing in the territory of western modern-day Saudi Arabia. In 1978, Wyatt claimed to have discovered the Mount Sinai in Nawaba and the Gulf of Aqaba, the eastern branch of the Red Sea. The best theory, according to Wyatt, was Jabal al-Lawz, which boasted the highest peak in the entire western Saudi Arabian mountain range. Wyatt and his 2 sons boldly and illegally crossed into Saudi Arabia in 1984 to explore and photograph the area, but they were apprehended, their films confiscated, and they were imprisoned for 78 days as Israeli spies by the Saudis. Wyatt later returned to Saudi Arabia, this time legally on a treasure hunting mission. He was looking for the Mountain of God, as well as Egyptian treasures in the region and remnants of Pharaoh's massive army, which he believed could be found at the bottom of the Red Sea. Following delegations, researchers produced impressive results in the following years, but most scholars agree that these are still speculative and lack definitive and indisputable archaeological proofs. Wyatt's research concludes that the famous mountain is a large pile of granite rocks about a quarter of a mile from the mountain's base. The site bears petroglyphs of bovine, that is, bulls, cows, and oxen. Wyatt claimed that this was the Great Altar of Israel at the foot of Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, and possibly the one mentioned in the Golden Calf story. After quoting a Saudi archaeologist from Riyadh University who said that these were Egyptian-style cows and bulls that had never been found anywhere else in Saudi Arabia. According to Israeli researchers, the exodus from Egypt occurred between 2350 and 2000 BC, which they backed up with other archaeological evidence. While such revisionist chronologies are not new, they're often rejected in scholarly circles. Despite this, Mount Sinai remains an important location to Christians because it was the scene of many shocking events related to the Israelites, according to biblical accounts. The Doubting Thomas Research Foundation made a documentary about how the real Mount Sinai, or the Mountain of Moses, is in Saudi Arabia. The foundation's researchers have also shown that the real Mount Sinai is in the Saudi kingdom. The documentary shows this on a map and talks about how all the places in the Bible match up with places in Saudi Arabia. In Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse 2, it says, "It took 11 days to get from Mount Sinai to Kadesh by way of Mount Seir." Many Bible maps show Kadesh where Tel El Kudarat is now. According to research done by the Doubting Thomas Research Foundation, remember that Deuteronomy chapter 1 says it takes 11 days to get to Kadesh Barnea from Mount Sinai via Mount Seir. From Jabal Makla to Petra, the distance is about 118 miles, or 188 kilometers as the crow flies. On the other hand, it's almost 250 kilometers, or 154 miles, from the traditional site in the southern Sinai Peninsula. Not only is this site farther away, but it's also in the middle of the wilderness and farther from any old roads than Jabal Makla, as the ancient city of Midian is a short distance from this mountain. Because of this, the trip would have taken even longer than usual. Also, the research of well-known scholars shows that the Red Sea, where Solomon built his fleet, is probably the same Red Sea that the Israelites crossed to get away from the Pharaoh's army. In short, the Israelites crossed the Red Sea in the Gulf of Aqaba, and this position in the Bible points to an Arabian Mount Sinai. According to a documentary called Finding the Mountain of Moses, the real Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, researchers have found the real location of Mount Sinai. This exciting discovery comes after scientists used radiocarbon dating to prove that the Red Sea parted for Moses. The team of researchers, led by security analyst Ryan Melro, claimed that the peak Jabal al-Lawz in Saudi Arabia is actually Mount Sinai. They found evidence suggesting that the Israelites crossed from the beach of Nuweiba into modern-day Saudi Arabia. The crossing would have only been 8 miles wide, making it easily walkable for the fleeing Israelis. Recently, a professor from Cambridge also confirmed that Mount Sinai, which is an active volcano, is in Saudi Arabia and not in the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. Professor Colin Humphreys of Cambridge University says that science backs up the idea that Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, which is pretty much how the Bible says it happened. Professor Humphreys says that the holy mountain must have been where Mount Better is now, in the northwest of Saudi Arabia. Also, he thinks that God spoke to Moses at the burning bush near Mount Better. He seems to think that this was caused by flammable natural gas or gas from a volcano coming up from the earth. Professor Humphreys said this about his book: "If my book is right, and I think the evidence is very strong, then world maps will have to be changed to put Mount Sinai in a different place. The Bible, history books, and travel guides will all need to be rewritten. I've found that the things that happened during the Exodus are even more dramatic than most people think. The ancient Israelites' escape from Egypt is one of the best true stories ever told. Bible scholars believe that evidence near Jabal al-Lawz suggests it was once an Israelite camp with cave paintings of cows, adding to the story of the Golden Calf. Unfortunately, the site may soon be destroyed because it's within the footprint of the proposed Saudi megacity Neom, which will be 33 times larger than New York. However, many scholars are still divided on whether the Great Exodus from Egypt ever happened at all, and even the timing of the Exodus is a subject of debate. Some scholars argue that the Exodus took place in the 13th century BC, during the Egyptians' 19th dynasty. The names of 3 locations mentioned in the biblical account of Israel's exodus from Egypt correspond to Egyptian place names between the 13th and 11th centuries BCE. According to the Bible, the Israelites were forced to build the store cities of Pithom and Ramses as slaves, and they left Egypt after the 10 plagues. crossing the Yam Suf, whose waters were miraculously parted for them. In conclusion, the discovery of the real location of Mount Sinai is a fascinating and important development in our understanding of the biblical story. However, the debate over the validity and timing of the exodus from Egypt continues to be a question. Alrighty folks, that's a wrap for this video. We hope you found it informative and enjoyable. So, what are your thoughts about the accurate location of Mount Sinai? Share in the comments below. Moreover, if you appreciate our content and wish to stay updated on our latest releases, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.